She hasn't seen him in years yet. Every sunrise still brings the ache of his small body pressed against hers, a phantom warmth that never fades. She stopped calling his name long ago. But some nights when the wind howls just right, she answers it without thinking, and he doesn't know what he's missing. Only that the world feels incomplete, as if something was torn from him before he learned what it meant to hold on. He dreams of white horizons, of a voice that calms the storm inside him, of eyes he's never seen and yet would recognize in a heartbeat something broke the day. The ice cracked. The ocean swallowed more than a cub. It stole a piece of her soul and left him drifting in a life that never felt like his. But even time cannot silence the pulse. Between them, even distance cannot drown what was never spoken, but always known. And now, across miles of open sea and years of silence, they move without knowing why. Drawn by a thread that never snapped, only stretched, waiting for the moment it pulls. Tight again, he moves through his days with quiet purpose, eating, sleeping, pacing the edges of his enclosure, as if tracing a shape he no longer remembers. Each morning, he wakes before the keepers arrive, sits still eyes, fixed on the northern sky where nothing changes, and yet he watches it as if waiting for something to return. He plays when coaxed, but never for long. His movements smooth, practiced but distant, like someone mimicking a memory, not living it, and sometimes without warning, he stops, mid-step, nose to the air, still as stone caught by a scent or a sound that no one else can sense. His keepers call it instinct, say he's restless because of the weather, but they don't see the way he curls into himself at night, silent, not sleeping, how he turns his back to the warmth of lamps, choosing instead the coldest corner of the habitat. They don't see how he touches the water with one paw, hesitant, reverent, like he's afraid it might vanish or take him with it. And in those moments, something ancient flickers in his eyes. Not wildness, not fear, but the ghost of something lost. Something he once had and cannot name, a quiet ache wrapped in fur that no one speaks of because he cannot speak. But it lives in him all the same. A rhythm beneath the surface, steady, silent, waiting. It happened too fast, one breath. They were walking the next. The world split open beneath them, a crack like thunder. Then water, cold, dark, alive, swallowing him. Before she could reach the edge, she dove, heart slamming against, her ribs pause slicing through the black. But he was gone. No cry, no struggle, only silence, and the endless churn of waves. She surfaced, gasping, calling again and again, until her voice broke into a sound that wasn't a voice at all. Just pain raw and useless. She searched for days, nose to the wind claws, scraping ice, her body moving long after her spirit gave out. But the ocean never gave him back, and slowly the world grew quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the hollow kind, where even the sky feels too far. To touch, she stopped eating, stopped resting, moving, only because her body remembered how her eyes dulled. Her breath grew thin. She no longer flinched at storms or predators, as if nothing could scare her more than what was already lost and somewhere far. Away he opened his eyes in a place that smelled wrong, sounded wrong. Voices he didn't know, faces too soft, too clean. But they fed him. They spoke gently. They named him. But the sound felt foreign in his ears. He grew larger, stronger. But something inside him stayed small, curled tight like a question with no words. Some nights he pressed against the walls as if trying to push through them into something older, deeper, and when the wind blew just right, he cried out, not knowing why, just that it hurt. And no, one could explain it. Time passed, but neither of them healed. Not really. The silence between them stretched longer than days or years. It became a place they lived in separately, echoing with what should have been. Let me pause here for just a moment and ask you, where are you listening from right now? Have you ever had someone, maybe a person, or even an animal, remember you after years apart? A glance, a scent, a voice, something that brought it all rushing back. If stories like this touch something in you, hit that subscribe button. There's so much more ahead, full of heart, memory, and quiet miracles. It began with a sound faint, almost accidental. The distant call of a gull overhead, a pitch too familiar, too sharp, and in that moment he froze, something inside him locked into place, as if the air had cracked open and let the past through his head, turned north without thought, muscles tight. Breath caught his eyes wide, with something not fear, not recognition exactly, but the ache that lives between the two. The keepers noticed his sudden stillness, but didn't understand, and when they left a screen, flickered on nearby a video playing snow ice, a mother bear leading a cub across a ridge, and he stepped closer, without meaning to, heart-pounding, slow and heavy. Each frame lit something in him. He didn't know he still carried, and when the wind picked up, later that night, brought with it the bitter scent of salt and cold. He couldn't sleep. He paced. He circled. He scratched the door not to escape, but to move towards something that wasn't there anymore, or maybe was, and far away across dark water. The mother lifted her head, the same wind brushing past her muzzle, and for the first time in years, her ears twitched forward, not back. Her eyes narrowed. She rose shakily and stepped toward the sea. The pain in her paw screamed, but something louder moved through, her chest a pulse old and steady and full of heat. She shouldn't have gone. The ice was thinning. She hadn't swum this far in seasons, but she moved forward into the surf. Pulled not by survival, but by memory. Not knowing where or why, just that something. Waited, that hadn't yet died, and in both of them, old questions woke. What if I was wrong? What if they forgot? What if I go and find nothing? And still their bodies moved before their minds could stop them. Because even after all this time, hope still lived. Not bright, but buried, smouldering like a coal, waiting for breath. And now at last, the wind had shifted, and they were both beginning to follow it. She didn't move at first, her body still heavy from the sea, her breath shallow, her eyes barely open, the light above her, too bright, too warm, too wrong. But then a sound reached her, low, steady, not threatening, but curious, familiar in a way she couldn't place. The air shifted, and with it came a scent, not strong, but enough to make her chest seize a second. Scent followed, layered beneath it, old snow fur. Warmth loss. She opened her eyes slowly, and there he was standing just beyond the barrier. Frozen, not by fear, but something deeper. His head tilted slightly, ears forward, unmoving, his whole body caught in the stillness of recognition, as if the world had narrowed to the space between them. She blinked once. He stepped forward silent. His paw touched the ground like it was sacred. His eyes locked on hers, wide, dark and flickering with something ancient. He paused again, then took another step. She didn't growl, didn't shift, just watched as he came closer. 1 step, 2, 3. And then the pause. The final breath of hesitation before their muzzles met. It wasn't fast. There was no collision, just a gentle press, of nose to fur, slow, soft, like a memory breathed into skin. She closed her eyes and exhaled, as if she had been holding that breath since the day the ocean took him, and he leaned into her, unsure at first, then fully, like falling into the shape he didn't. No, he'd been missing. A low rumble vibrated from his chest. Not quite a sound, more a feeling, and she answered with one of her own, quieter, older, but the same. And that was all it took. The space between then and now collapsed, not erased, but folded into this one fragile, impossible moment where the past touched the present and neither needed to ask, because the answer was already there, in scent, in breath, in the weight of silence finally lifted. He follows her now, not out of fear or habit, but something. Gentler, his steps no longer cautious but steady, as if the earth beneath him has remembered how to hold his weight. She lets him closer each day, resting her head against his shoulder when they sleep, brushing past him in quiet passes that say, "I know you." Without words, they eat together slowly, in rhythm, not rushed, not guarded. And when he plays now, it's different. The wildness is still there, but softened by joy. His paws splash the water with purpose, not confusion, as if showing her, "Look, I'm still here." And she watches with eyes that were once empty, now filled with something warm, not bright, but glowing steady. When he leans into her, she doesn't pull away, and when she stands, he follows her shadow as if it were his own. Sometimes they touch noses for no reason at all, just to feel the breath of the other, and when the wind stirs and the cold drifts in, neither flinches, because it brought them back, and now it cannot take them again. Healing doesn't shout. It doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in silence, in small shared moments that say, I remember, and I forgive, and I'm not going anywhere. And in that quiet, in the soft weight of presence, they begin to live again, no longer just surviving, no longer just waiting, and that is all they need, not the past, as it was not the future as a promise. Only this, the heartbeat beside them, steady, familiar home. Some bonds are written deeper than memory, beyond sound, beyond time. They survive in the quiet, in the space between what was and what still is, when everything else falls away. They remain waiting, patient, untouched by distance or silence. And when they return, they do not ask for explanation. They simply arrive steady, certain like breath, after drowning like warmth, after endless cold. And in that return, something shifts, not loudly, not suddenly, but enough to change everything. Because love that endures does not vanish. It pauses. It endures. And then, when the moment is right, it begins again. And in that beginning, what was broken learns how to be whole.